Hello and welcome to the Cameo Show. I'm your host, Cameo, and today we have with us my husband and co-host, Mr. Greg Braun.
So glad to be here.
Do you have a dad joke prepared?
I do. Actually, it's a real easy one. So everybody should be able to get this one. Really, what is the difference between a dad joke and a bad joke?
The D. I don't.
The first letter.
Oh, okay. I was kind of right. I was being ornery.
Yeah.
That D. Today, Greg and I are going to share a recent adventure. We took a trip to Colorado to have a little Greg and Cameo time because
We needed it.
we do everything together. You'd think, oh my God, aren't you guys tired of each other? What do you mean you're going on a trip together to have more time together? But we're like always doing. So we needed like a trip that would allow us to step away from the normal doing and do some other things, right? So
Yeah, otherwise you're at home all the time. There's so many chores, there's so many to-do lists here
yeah.
that you never really get to like relax and enjoy yourself. So we carved out that time, took the little trip, and it ended up being a wild adventure.
Yes, it did. Usually at home, we're like spinning so many plates that sometimes you don't get the best version of me. Like you get the work version or the music version or the writing podcast version. And then it's hard to connect at the end of the day because we're parents. And then everything else takes priority. And then we go to bed and it's like, shit, I am tired and I'm sorry and I love you, but I'm tired.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like a long time ago, we didn't know what to do with that. So it ended in like resentment and anger and frustration. And now we just kind of have a little bit more empathy and compassion and understanding for each other. And we're like a little bit more vocal about it. Like, dude, it's not you. It has nothing to do with you. I'm just tired. And that probably helps you feel better and understand where I'm coming from a little bit better too. But anyway, so this trip was intentionally to like connect, but also disconnect from the rest of the other shit that is always going on, right?
And what was the real catalyst for the trip was a band that I used to really be into, Soul Coughing. They were doing a 20-year anniversary, or was it
2030? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
We're
know.
old.
An anniversary reunion tour.
Yeah.
And so I saw one of the dates they had available was in Boulder. And I was like, oh, yes, this would be perfect. We can go out and visit with some friends and make a whole weekend of it. So,
Yeah. Fun fact, we don't do a lot of these types of things because we are so busy and so involved in our kids, everything going on. But when we do, it's usually centered around something crazy where he'll run in the room and be like, hey, so-and-so's playing here, or hey, Ryan Holiday's speaking, or hey, we should go here for this event. And then we center like a whole trip around whatever that event is. And this followed suit. This is such a Greg and Cameo kind of thing that we've made our own, way of forming a trip.
yep.
We're very spontaneous in that way. Like, I'm not very good at planning things months in advance. It's very like, let's do it, book it. Also, fun fact, we had a ton of Marriott points and Southwest points, and the whole trip was free because, well, I mean, aside from like the extra stuff, but the hotel and the airline, the flights were free.
Yep.
That was the first time we've ever used them. We've been like accumulating these for a decade, and that felt amazing because it was like guilt-free.
Yeah, that definitely helped.
And a third fun fact, our kids are like old enough now where we didn't have to worry about having somebody come stay with them. They took care of the dog, and Faith is our daughter, she's 19, ran our son to his high school band practice and to school. And our daughter's boyfriend was here as well. He came home from college for the weekend.
It was nice.
It was crazy too, because that's the first time that's ever been the case.
Yep.
And then my mom rolled in, and that was cool too, because she was here for the last couple of days with them.
Yep.
But anyway, so we took this trip and it was centered around seeing Soul Coughing.
Yep.
And we have some friends that live in Boulder. You might have mentioned that already. Actually, a couple of different sets of people. So we were like, cool, we can see some people. We can do some hiking. We'll go see this band. We'll have a little us time. Maybe we'll go to a bookstore.
It was a big, relaxing weekend that in my mind was going to be pretty chill.
And when I say hiking, Greg's idea of hiking and my idea of hiking might have been a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a week before we are ready to leave, we're talking about hiking and packing and all the things and checking in with like my stepbrother and our buddy Brad, who they live out there. Like, what hike should we do? And I, in true cameo fashion, get this idea. And I'm like, while we're there, instead of just leisurely hiking, which we can do because that's fun, we should do a 14er.
And when what the heck's a 14er?
Yeah, when I said that, Greg kind of looked at me like, okay, like I think you thought I was being funny, right?
Yeah, I've never heard of this.
A 14er.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, a teener. And then we ran with that for a minute. And then I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, this is a real thing. So a 14er is, I'm no 14er expert, so I'm just going to say what I think it is. And I'm pretty sure I'm right. But there are 58. Yes, 58?
Yeah, 58 14ers.
58 14ers. There are 58 mountains in Colorado specifically that are 14,000 feet or higher. There are some that are ranked pretty easy on a difficulty level. And then there are some that are like, you literally are scaling.
Yeah.
Well, we chose an easy one through the help of our people who know what's up out there and did a little research and then decided we were going to do one. And when I told you about doing it and told you like really what it is, what were your first thoughts?
I'm up for it. I mean, I'm
yeah.
This will be fun and challenging, and let's do it.
You didn't give me any pushback.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us fully knew what to expect because I've never done one either. The closest thing to anything like that I've ever done was 29029, which was an endurance event, so it was a lot different actually.
When did you tell me what it was?
I don't know, maybe like a week, a few days before, half a week
Just
before.
because in my mind, if I really think back to this, whenever we travel somewhere, I never really think about it until like we get real close, like night before kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know why that is, but I never really in my mind like go there. Yeah. And then it was like, oh yeah, we're going to be doing this physical activity.
And we live in Florida, so we have elevation nothing. We are like sea levelers. And the oxygen is thick here. The air is thick.
Plenty of air to breathe here.
Yes, it's thick and it's humid and it's on the ground as low as you can get. So we were trying to figure out like what is the most ideal day to do this. We were flying in late on Friday night and flying home early on Tuesday. And so our local friends kind of helped us with the weather and what the plan was. And so we landed on Sunday originally, that we were going to do Mount Bierstadt on Sunday. Mm-hmm. As we got closer, we found out that like the weather wasn't going to be so friendly on Sunday. In fact, they were expecting a lot of snow. And so we were kind of tapping out on that. Like, that ain't going to happen. We're Floridians and we barely hike and we might not be able to breathe. So we certainly aren't going to be wanting to tromp through any snow. Mm-hmm. So as we got closer, our plans changed a little bit and we had every excuse in the world not to do it. Like, first of all, we barely know what it is. Secondly, we don't know the landscape. We haven't trained. We don't know if we are even going to be able to do it, if we are equipped to do it. What do we eat? How do we do this? As we got closer, I was the same. Like, I hadn't really thought about it because we were busy and events and work and things going on. But like, then I got really excited. Mm-hmm. And then I got a little bit nervous because I'm like, well, what if we can't do this? Especially when we had to change the day. So it ended up being that we flew in late Friday night and we needed to do this hike on Saturday morning, which meant that all the odds were stacked against us. We didn't have a day to acclimate, which would be ideal. We literally were going to get like 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep by the time we flew in, got our rental car, got to the hotel, checked in, settled in, and finally got to sleep. Mm-hmm. Because you have to drive like an hour and a half or so to get into the mountain range where you start this hike at the trailhead. So we had to get up at 4 a.m. to be ready to meet our buddy Brad, who went with us. Stacked against us. No acclimation time, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Really no idea what the hell's going on. Hoping for the best. Fully prepared with equipment. We had poles. Mm-hmm. We looked professional. Mm-hmm. We had, what did I call it? What are they called? Water bellies?
Oh, yeah.
We had backpacks with water bellies that we did not use,
Yep.
but we took them just in case. So we rolled up to this mountain trailhead and we were off on our adventure. The start is like, what do we start at? Like 10 or 11,000 feet?
Mm-hmm.
You don't hike 14,000 feet. I mean, you can, but ain't nobody got time for that. Like we barely had time to get this in anyway and get there and all of that. So we started at this trailhead and you hike like 3,500 feet in elevation and like 7.5 miles there and back total. We're like, we can handle this.
Yep.
And you start and it's like, you're already breathing heavy because there's no oxygen. It's like you're up in the air and you're like gasping before you even start walking.
Yeah, I think we weren't even really to like, we were still in like the foothill part of it, you know? And I'm like, Brad, let me use the oxygen can.
Brad got an oxygen can. He's an adventurer himself, but had never completed a 14er. So he came along and we, prepared the best we could. And he brought candy and he brought an oxygen thing. It's like a can and you spray it. You put the mask on your face and you spray it.
I don't know if it helped or not, but
psychologically.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I knew I was in trouble when I looked over and saw this very large mountain ahead, and I'm already just standing here in the grass. I can't breathe.
You like start in like there's trees. You're like in the tree line. There's a bridge and there's steps for you, and like you're not even really going up yet.
Yeah.
But you're going up. But it's just, I mean, you probably hike 1,000 feet in like a mile and a half in the first start, which isn't up much. So I just remembered. So we get to the creek.
Stream. Yeah.
And so it's, what time is it? It's 6:00, 6:30. Yeah. The sun is just coming up and there are people, you can see their headlamps and they're like eensy teensy off in the distance. And
coming
it's like,
back.
Yeah. Well, some of them were still going up, but some of them were coming back. We passed them. Oh. And it was like, oh my God, what time did you get here? Did you sleep here overnight? And come to find out, people actually do that. They like set up camp and so that they're there super early in the morning and get an early start. And we passed one guy we passed a few people, but one guy who looked super serious. He probably did sleep there, maybe in his car. I don't know what he did. That was all speculation. Mm-hmm. But he passed us right after he was coming down, and we have to cross this creek. And there's no bridge. There's just rocks. And this guy was like, the rocks are getting icy already. And we're like, okay, thanks, sir. We get to the stream, and I'm like, you guys go first. Secret. I'm going to expose myself here. I like to pride myself on being athletic, and I'm like, these guys are older. They're not quite as in good of shape as me. Like, they're not quite as, like, they're a little on the clumsy side. So I'm like, you guys go first. I'm going to video. This ought to be funny.
So you videoed us crossing?
I videoed you starting. Because there were like a few people in front of us and you could see them like slipping on the rocks. Everybody had poles to try to help. The water wasn't deep, but if you get wet at the beginning, you're screwed. That's a really shitty way to start because you're going to be soaked the whole way up.
Miserable. Yeah.
It would be awful. So I'm like, you guys go ahead. I'll video. This is going to be awesome. Thinking, I don't know what I'm going to catch.
Brad did fine.
Brad did just fine. You did fine. I mean, you kind of had to like crawl on these boulders, like on some of these bigger rocks because
they were literally covered in ice.
Yeah. If you didn't stay low to the ground, you literally would fall into the creek. So I start videoing you guys. I've got my poles. I've got my backpack with my unfilled water belly, some food. I'm like ready. And people are starting to kind of like congregate here, waiting for people to pass. And I'm videoing. I'm like watching you guys. And I'm like, okay, sweet. I'm going to get ready to go. I get ready to step on the first rock. You guys didn't see this. It's such a tragedy.
I know. I was hoping that you would let us get across and I could video you because it was questionable. I knew something was going to happen. But.
So it's tragic that no one saw this, except for embarrassingly a large group of guys who walked up right as this happened. So I get ready. I don't even make it on the first rock. I slip. I fall down and immediately go into, thank God for jujitsu, when we were going to jujitsu, which we aren't. We haven't talked about that. We had to stop. We just got injured, too many things. Anyway, I went straight into jujitsu mode. I fell. I knew how to fall. I rolled over. I did a back roll. It probably looked awesome. It was also embarrassing. I'm the one that fell. I wasn't even crossing the creek yet.
She felt like getting ready to take the first step.
It was like an anticipatory fall, but I fell like a pro.
But you didn't get wet.
I didn't get wet. I mean,
and you got across.
Everything was intact.
Yep.
I was
just turn around and you're like,
I'm okay. I'm okay. So I cross the creek. We're off. Then we start climbing. Then you're beyond the tree line and it gets rocky. It's gravel. I mean, there's a trail and there's a path and there's plenty of people, which was cool. I think it would have been, don't you think it would have been weirder if there weren't as many people? It would have felt like.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
It was a really nice day.
Yeah, just the right amount of people.
There was a nice chill in the air, but the sun was out.
A lot of people had their dogs.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really awesome.
There were some kids even.
So many dogs, so many kids, older people, like retired people that you're just like, this is great. This good mix of, so yeah. I mean, you're like, I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Until you're doing it and you have to stop every like 200 feet in elevation because you can't breathe. And you're like.
The weirdest thing in the world to not be able to breathe.
Take a
like
deep
you're
breath.
breathing. You're doing the act of breathing, but you're not getting enough oxygen. And it made me feel like I was like super weak.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh God, I'm dying. I was just like, oh, what is wrong? And I remember going to Colorado years ago, like the first time ever really doing anything there, riding bikes. I remember just being like, oh, I'm so out of shape. It's pathetic, but the low oxygen level. Yeah. Even just that little bit different, you can feel it to where you're like going to pass out, or you can't move your body. Yeah. It's the weirdest thing.
I kept like worrying about you too, because I didn't want him to be at the tail because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And if I'm like looking forward, you're like trying to make sure you don't lose your footing, especially as you get higher and you're like literally scrambling boulders.
So I was like the guy in the middle. Brad had to take up the rear and Cammy was up front, and then they would switch because it seemed like I was impacted the most.
I think so, if you're breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't use the oxygen. I don't know if Brad did or not. Maybe he did once. I didn't really feel that, like what you did. There were a couple times as we got up higher where I kind of had to I was definitely winded. I definitely felt out of that feeling like when you feel out of shape, but I knew that I wasn't out of shape. So I'm like, I'm good. It's just, I can't breathe as well as I would normally. So I didn't really experience what you did.
Yeah.
You get up so far and you take breaks and you drink water and you stay hydrated and you have your snacks and you're passing people. And like, what would be funny is that we would like park, right? We'd stop to catch our breath, have a snack, whatever. Not every stop, because like sometimes we stopped in 5 minutes. So we weren't like busting out snacks every 5 minutes, but you park to.
It was pretty frequent. It was leisure.
A breath. It was definitely a leisure.
Had to be. 14er
hike.
It was a leisure teener.
Yeah.
It had to be.
Teener.
It had to be.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and they had, seats.
Yeah, they had benches.
On purpose. Like, you go this far, you're probably going to want to sit. There was no path.
No.
That's the other thing that's just kind of like wherever the natural path of least resistance happens to be.
As you get up higher, for sure.
And people just kind of stack rocks, and that way it's kind of like, all right, that's where the path is leading.
Wayfinding.
But yeah, I mean, it was lots of stops, which I enjoyed too, because Brad's one of our best friends in our whole lives, and it was good to it was like hanging out,
Well, yeah, we hadn't
telling stories.
Had a chance to catch up with them at all. Like we hadn't hung out in years because of the distance, and so it was like an opportunity to do just that.
I enjoyed that part of it. It was very social. I mean, like in Perfect Strangers would be, on their way up or down, they would stop, talk for a second.
Well, that's what I was going to say was funny is that we would stop and then a group would pass us.
Yeah.
And then you're like, God, well, maybe you didn't think this, but I thought it like, God, I'm such a loser. Why do I have to stop so often?
Because we got passed.
I'm just competitive.
Yeah.
I can't, it just is in my brain. But yeah, like I'm such a loser. These people are passing us. And then you'd go like 200 feet and they were like parked trying to catch their breath. So you just kind of like, back and forth with each other. So.
And other than the absolutely disgusting bathroom that it's at the trailhead where you park and everyone does their last minute business.
Which is often a last minute poop, and it's in a hole. If you've not been
that
in
early
one of
in the
these,
morning, it's not lit. It's just...
There's flies everywhere. The hole is like this big around. You just hover. I mean, maybe you sat. I don't sit.
Oh, yeah, I got in there and got all comfy. And...
Yeah. But it's just a giant hole, and you don't know what's down there exactly. You just know it doesn't smell
I
good.
got a good idea.
Well, I mean, you can guess what's down there, but I'm saying
you don't know what else is
there's
down
other
there.
things that
There
might
could
be
be
down
a
there.
monster, for real.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's definitely a super turd. There might be a snake. That's what I was thinking. It's, oh, shit. Or
one of those poop snakes.
Well, you just don't know. And it stinks. It's weird.
It's the weird. It's the
and
gross.
It's scary and it's awful. But you were saying, aside from that,
there's no washrooms on the side of the mountain. So you're just like, when you gotta pee, you're like, okay, and there's just people all around. So you just kind of, you got Brad on the lookout here, you're up here, and it was like, okay, someone's coming.
I love how that's really difficult for men.
Yeah.
I was like, eventually had to pee. Yeah. There was no waiting. I waited as long as I could. And, it's not as easy for us. We can't just like whip anything out. We have to do the whole damn thing, pull everything down, squat, ass out for whoever to see because there's people everywhere. So I had to like find a spot between big boulders, have the guys on the lookout. Great. But again, that was really no different for me than like the big poop hole, because it's like, well, what's under these rocks? What if something comes up and gets me? Like, what if a bear lives here, or a marmot? Is that what they're called?
Well, they also had the Pokemon. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, marmot? The little guys I wasn't so scared of.
Yeah.
Those are called pikas.
Pikas.
And we were educated on the side of the mountain that the Pikachu Pokemon is named after a pika. I don't know if that's true. This is not factual, but someone told us, so it's probably true. Just, they were really cute. But those bigger guys that look like prairie dogs, they stand up, or beavers or what. I don't know if they're mean. I don't know what they look like up close, but we saw them from a distance. Like, one of those could have lived there and not be happy about my ass in their doorway. Yeah. So that was scary. But yes, so you just do what you can. So then we get to like where you check your compass on your phone. Thank you, Apple. And you're like, okay, well, we're at like 13,000 feet. And you look around and you're like, I don't know where else I'm going up. That's how I felt. I was like, where is there to go up from here? And then Brad's like, over there. And there's like a path and it goes down a little bit. And then there's this giant pile
of rocks.
It's not a trail. There's no dirt. There's no trees. It's just big rocks. And it's like, really? That's what we're doing? This part I was not prepared for. This is
really? You didn't think about that?
I didn't realize. I mean, I had read like the trail reviews on one of the All Parks maps or whatever, All Trails maps. All Trails apps. So I like read where people were talking about that, especially like in that last like kind of 300-yard push. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I fully grasped the concept of just literally scrambling boulders. Yeah. That's unlike any hiking I had ever done, ever. You too, right? So it was like, oh, we're doing this. There's no path. Those wayfinding stacks of rocks, you can't find them in a pile of rocks. So you kind of just like watch people as they're coming down and like other people as they're going up and try to figure out which is the best way for me to get up there. And up there, it was really far away at that point, and the people are still tiny. Mm-hmm. And like most of the time, pictures don't do mountain pictures. Pictures don't do mountain pictures justice. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. They look like nothing, but there are some pictures that we have of like the boulders, and the people, and I feel like it does perfect justice to the situation, because the people are eensy teensy and these rocks are giant, and it's like, this has got to be, I don't know. Yeah. This is scary. Also, I was still worried about Greg because he tends to be, he's tall and lanky and he tends to be a little bit clumsy. And I was like,
Just a little.
I am going to get down low like Spider-Man. That was my method. That was my strategy. I'm going to like cramp up my poles and like climb these, you know? And Greg's like, and you led the charge, I think,
Yeah.
a couple of times at that point.
I got used to the altitude, I think, after it went on, and then it was just like,
I wonder if that's a thing where, like, when you first start, it's more difficult than when you get up top.
well,
The air doesn't like get more oxygen up
it's
top,
less, I'm sure. Yeah.
right? I don't know. But yes, you definitely like really charged through there at the end. But I was worried about you like losing your balance or something.
Yeah.
And so we scrambled these boulders and got to the top, and like there was like a lot of top area and a lot of people up there taking pictures. You know, you like hold a sign like this is a thing. And I think you were like, oh, this is a thing. 14ers are a thing.
Yeah, I
And
heard
finally-
people talking about it on the way up. Like, "Do you bring the sign? Did you make?" I'm like, "For what?" You know, hiking has always just been go park at a parking lot, walk around, look for animals, get back in the car and leave. You know, like it's never been this
an event.
an event.
It was
you
an
know?
event. It was like going to run a race
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. But so we got up to the top, which was basically the top. But at the top of this mountain, there's like a thing. It's like a medallion or whatever. What would you call it? It's like a
Yeah,
medallion.
a marker. Like
It's a marker.
Yeah, in the stone.
And it
it's-
says the elevation. I think it maybe even says the mountain name, Mount Bierstadt. I think that's how you say it. It's kind of it's a weird first teener.
Mhm.
But that's where you go to like hold your sign and take pictures and take a picture of that. And, you know, we didn't take a picture. Did you even do it? But like we got up there and I never told you guys this, but when we got up there and you guys were like, okay, let's go over here. I was kind of like, I'm good here. This is really freaking high. If you look over there, there is nothing but down on this side. And if you look back where we just came from, I can't believe we just climbed that because it was like pretty steep.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't scaling, but it was pretty steep and it was kind of scary. I'm not afraid of heights. I told you this when we were hiking at the other place. Like, I'm not afraid of heights, but I don't like being at the edge.
Yeah.
That's a hard no for me. No, thank you. I'll stay close to the inside. Well, at the top, there is no inside.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of like,
It was kind of like a narrow. I mean, you were literally at the top of a mountain. You know, like
yeah. Yeah, like the point,
the
the
point.
crest.
Yeah.
And you're up there with a bunch of people you don't know, and you're just hoping everybody's a good person because they're there hiking a 14er. So you're just like, these are good people.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's crazy and going to shove me over, you know.
Yeah.
But you guys kept going. So I'm like, well, shit, I guess I better keep going. So I moved over to that area and everybody was nice and taking pictures for each other and a little bit of conversation. Some people were having snacks. But I was ready to go back down after we took pictures. And you were like, go sit on that rock. It's so cool behind you. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not as adventurous as that. I was surprised that you wanted to do.
I was good up
Yeah,
there. I wasn't even thinking about it. Yeah.
That's where I kind of start
Yeah.
dipping out a little.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a little bit of quote unquote PTSD from like climbing the 29029 section in the dark where it was like dirty. It was dirt. It was like, you know, rough dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very steep. That section after the aid station that you walked with me. And in the dark, it's very scary. And if you miss 1 foot, you're just likely going down. Anyway, I didn't like it. So I was like, let's go. So we went back down to like kind of before the big boulders started. And on the way down, I was nervous and I was following you because I was nervous that you, again, were going to be clumsy. And this time you're going down. If you fall going up, it feels different. But if you fall going down,
Yeah.
you're already like facing that direction. I was nervous for you, probably because I was scared myself. Having flashbacks.
Yeah.
So then we got back down to where I felt safe and we sat.
Brad had those little candy cherries.
They're like sour cherries. They were candy, not real cherries. They were scrumptious.
Yeah.
You kind of get like back on the path after you're off the boulders. The excitement's gone. Like You're kind of now just ready to like, okay, let's move on. Let's get back down. I think going down sucks. Going down is not, I don't like going down. Did you think it was different?
I mean, it wasn't that much worse, I don't think.
I think
It's a
going down
different-
sucks because you can see so much
Yeah.
of how much down
Yeah.
there is, right? I don't know. I don't like going down.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder on your knees
Yeah.
going up. You can use your butt muscles and like your hamstrings and your quads, all your big leg muscle groups to climb up. But going down, it's like a lot of pressure and impact on your joints.
Yeah.
And as you get older, that kind of
Yeah.
starts to hurt a little bit. So I don't like going down. We've established that. I don't like being at the top for too long because it's too scary, and I don't like going down. So, but we still did the whole Greg sandwich thing because I was a little worried about you when I saw I was walking behind you and you were doing great, but I saw you kind of like
Weeble wobble.
wobble. And at this point, we're still like on a tiny sliver of what's becoming a path. We're still kind of on the edge of what we're hiking. And you were like, kind of like shuffle stepping down and wobbly. And I like, he kind of looked like a drunk old man who wasn't sure how to get home. And I was like, oh, I better, I don't know what I would have done. I better follow behind you to make sure to tell you if you are starting to wobble too hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what my method or theory was there, but I just felt like I needed to see you in front of me to make sure you didn't fall off the cliff, or watch you if you had, because that would have been the
Or
other
shove me.
alternative. Or shoved him.
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
I tripped and fell, and it accidentally, yeah. But then you get back down to the path, and then you're back to the stacks of rocks, and people are coming up. I was surprised that people were coming up that late because typically they say you need to be back down before the early afternoon because that's when storms roll in. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. There was like a storm rolling in. We didn't get caught in it. A little bit of snow flakes, which was fun. But I swear to God, it felt like 3 days coming down. Coming down was like way longer. At one point, maybe I was like a little bit loopy because do you remember when we got to like where it was more level and you could see the parking lot, but it was really far away. And it was unbelievable how far away it was. Like you can't be serious that we still have that far to walk. I feel like I'm on the ground, first of all. It's starting to flatten out, but that is really far away. I feel like I've been doing this forever because we had been. At this point, we're like 7 hours in, 8 hours in.
It's a long day.
I must have been loopy because if you remember, I started running.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was really having a great time running. It felt very free to run. I got off the path where it was kind of rocky and beat down and just kind of like haphazardly ran in the grassier area, which was still rocks, and I could have easily tripped and busted my face.
Yeah.
But it felt very kid-like to be running slightly downhill in this mountain range. It was fun.
I enjoyed the element of not being on your phone too. Like I know we would take pictures and stuff, but just having that extended amount of time to be out in nature with no phone and no one can get to me. Actually, I did take a call. A real estate agent called me with a question about a deal, and I attempted to take the call when we were at the peak of that mountain.
Yeah, I remember, and I was like, who is he talking to? I'm afraid I'm going to die
I'm
right
like,
now.
hello. But the reception was just too bad. We got dropped. But other than that, like you're not on your phone, and you don't really realize how much you're on your phone until you're not on your phone, and then you're like, I'm on my phone a lot just for work and Instagram and YouTube. You just use it for everything. So it felt noticeably nice, to just be free of that. So that could have contributed to your frolicking,
I probably looked like a crazy person. I have no idea. You're right about the phone thing. We took a lot of pictures, but I don't know how people like do that and do the camera at the same time. On the boulders, for example. I would have loved to have kind of video while we were going up or take better pictures, but like it was very involved and I just couldn't have my phone out to even do that. It was too much trekking.
Yeah.
But so we got down. By the time we got back to the river, the rocks weren't frozen, no spills there. everybody felt good. Like we were all feeling really good. And then all of a sudden, when we got back really close to the poop shack, the last stop bathroom, I started feeling like major hell. My head started hurting. I don't know if for some reason all the way up and then all the way down, maybe I'm super powerful and I was like, I'm not giving in to altitude sickness, because I literally didn't feel it until we got almost to the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then my head started hurting, and I just have never really experienced altitude sickness in that way. But when we got in the car to drive back down, I was out. Bam, head on the center, sleeping, eyes closed. And the sad part was that all of the aspen trees were like bright yellow, almost fluorescent. And I couldn't enjoy them because they hurt my eyes and my head, my eyeballs.
Bright, vibrant yellow.
Yeah.
Everyone's stopping, taking pictures.
Like hang out the window on the ride down, Instagram, photo, video, amazingly beautiful. And I couldn't enjoy any of them.
Yeah.
It was like really intense all the way back to Boulder.
Yep.
Which was like an hour and a half.
Yep.
And I'm such a jerk. Brad, if you're listening, I'm really sorry. I could have let you sit in the front seat so you could like converse with Greg while I was like sleeping.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I'm really sorry for that. That's my lack of awareness. But I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to be so intense. It was awful. But then we made it back to Boulder. We made it back.
All good.
We didn't fall off of a boulder. We made it back into Boulder. And you learned really quickly what a 14er was.
Yeah.
And so we went from not knowing and having no clue and all the odds stacked against us and every reason to say we'll do it another time. This isn't the right time. To like, hell yeah, we did it. And we have the picture to show.
Yep. I would say I noticed about myself at this stage of my life, I'm a lot more open-minded to doing things like that. Whereas in my 20s, 30s, I feel like I would have been like, no, I'm not doing that. Just immediately you would have been like, let's go hike up a mountain. I'd be like, no,
He's not, there's no like, I feel like I would have. He would have been like, hell no, I'm not doing that. If you want to do that, fine.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
And I still reserve that right,
And sometimes
I still reserve the right to not do these crazy adventures. But like,
Yeah, but what's different is that you don't like.
It's not a hard no right out of the gate.
That, and you also don't make me feel like an asshole for wanting to. You flip to like, if you're not into it, you are still very supportive of when I want to do it, which is also a little bit different than how it might have been.
And I think that's been good for me because it's allowed me to experience things in my life that I wouldn't have if I would have been closed off to it. And it's good for us because like you said, I'm a lot more available to be supportive if you do want to do this or that,
Yeah. It usually starts as like a really crazy idea too. They're not usually small things. Like a 14er is not a small thing. Even if we did an easy one, even if we can show up as Floridians and handle it, it's a difficult thing to do. And 7 years ago on our anniversary, we ran a marathon for our 10-year anniversary. Yep. And I remember when I told you that,
that probably got a hard no right out of the gate, right?
Well, we had just run the 7-mile bridge in the Florida Keys. So from Marathon to Duck Key, I think, or something. I don't know. I'd have to get out a map.
Prior to that, it was just some 5Ks.
Yeah. I mean, I had run a half marathon. We had run a 5K, maybe the donut run was, I think, 6 miles. I don't know. But the 7-mile bridge was like the farthest. And as soon as we were done, I was on total runner's high. And I'm like, we should run a marathon. And you were like, I don't know what you said, but it wasn't.
I don't like you.
Probably I don't like you. It was not, yes, we should. It was anything but that.
Yeah.
But then you were like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And it was awesome. And so these things are always usually big, stupid ideas that I have. And some of them stick and some of them don't. But you have definitely, I think, also taken me more seriously that like, even though they sound big and ridiculous, we can do this. Let's do it. And been more open. Each time you do that, it just kind of like reiterates your confidence in yourself that you're able to do these hard things. I love that part.
It adds to the adventure of life. And I don't know, I just feel fortunate that I've said yes to some of these things. And that I've said no to some of them too, but
And while we're able,
yeah,
I often
that's
think
it.
that like there might be a time when I'm not able to do this,
Yeah.
or, I was injured a lot this year, and there were times when I literally could barely walk, and I just thought like I'm not going to complain anymore about going for a run. I have since complained about having to work out or do things, but it changes your perspective. And so
Yeah.
I think that if not now, then when on some of these things, because we're not getting younger.
Yeah.
We're just trying to maintain and optimize our life, our health, our experiences, our connection, all of these things. And something like that, especially in a spontaneous way, really does that.
Yep.
I feel like.
So it's exciting because it also is a social thing that you don't really think about doing these, but when you're part of a gym or you're part of, a gym community, or like we're going to run a half marathon in Ohio in a couple weeks, and my brother's going to do it with us. So it'll be a fun experience that, you bond over that,
Yeah.
these intense moments.
Yeah, you share them. Like we have that with our friend Brad forever. It was his first completed 14er. It was our first. And you always remember your first. You know what I'm saying? On that note, though, back to like my big dumb ideas, I was sick and you were like ready to make the list of 58 14ers. So the roles reversed. You were like ready to go. You were like, when we doing the next one?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, too soon. I'm barely alive. I don't want to talk to you. I was like, I don't like you right now.
On the ascend, and I couldn't breathe, and I'm like, geez, but I was like, I can't wait to do this again. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Too soon for me. I think I was still overcoming the anxiousness that I feel at the tip top.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I just felt like shit. And I'm like, I can't even believe you're presenting this as an option right now.
Yeah.
But I think we'll do another one. Like, I think, I don't know that we'll go to Colorado. Colorado is one of our favorite spots. Many people love Colorado, and we tend to always go back to the same area. Now we have friends, family in that area, so that makes it even cooler. Red Rocks for concerts. Like, it's our thing. Like, that's one of our spots. And I don't know that we'll ever go though and not do it, because now it's like, now you know what it's what it's like.
It's a fun challenge.
Yeah. It's just the right amount of challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I'll ever do like all 58. Some of those are like, you got to know what you're doing, professional rock climber kind of shit. But like,
which that's what we did the next day. When did we go to the park and watch the people rock climb?
The next day was the concert. It was like Monday.
That was cool. Watching people for real rock climb.
I can't even believe it.
In real life, just laying there and watching.
I think I've said in my life, like, I'll try anything once. Obviously there's a little bit of, I won't try anything once, but I'll try a lot of things once. And that's not one of them. Never. No way. I just absolutely is not on the list of things that I will do. That and whitewater rafting and trains.
Yeah.
So just put it on that list. It's a hard no for me.
Deal.
But those people are like, obviously extremely fearless, dedicated, ambitious. I don't know what gear those people have that scale rocks like that, but it ain't me. I ain't got that.
No.
I don't know if I would have ever like understood what that felt like to see without seeing it. Like you see pictures, or like you've watched the movies or whatever.
Yeah.
About that guy that did it without any ropes.
Yeah. Free climb. Is that what it's called?
I don't know. Insanity. Insane. No, thank you. But good for you. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it was a great trip, and then we saw a great show. We saw Soul Coughing. You really weren't that familiar with their music.
Fun fact number 4. I knew 2 Soul Coughing songs. I was too young, I think. Greg's a little older than me. I always like to bring that up. The only 2 songs I knew were the ones you played in Myopia.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like a fan. It's kind of a weird band. Like, it's not a mainstream kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a little artistic and creative, a little too much for the mainstream. But when I was in Myopia, we played Super Bon Bon and Circles, and they were songs that people loved.
Yeah.
Because they're fun.
Yeah.
And they have the drummer for Soul Coughing's phenomenal. He's just got a really good tight pocket and groove, and the lyrics and the flow. And so they were fun songs to play as a band. So I felt like watching them play them, it was like those songs were personal to me because I've played them hundreds of times as our own,
Yeah.
So
And
it
then
was
for
really
me, it
awesome.
was like a really new experience because I don't know that I've ever seen a band that's quite like them. They're
Yeah.
very unique. And it was amazing. It was a full-on experience.
Yep.
Sonically, visually, expansion of my own art palette. It was cool.
Because you were open to it.
And I would see them again in a heartbeat. You wouldn't have to twist my arm.
You were open to it. I was apologizing before we left because I love listening to their music. It's weird. They sing about crazy stuff. I mean, like, it's just very abstract. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're probably not gonna. I felt like it was just for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're going to go to
like
support
when we
me.
went to see Jason Momoa play.
Right. That was for
just
you.
for me.
But it ended up being amazing. So
it was very cool.
So, again, back to being open-minded. You had a good attitude about it and you're down to try it out and ended up loving it.
Yeah, very much so. Overall, it was a great trip. So fun stories, but also like the overarching message for me and what I feel like is for you as the listener here. Be open, carve out time to spend together, do new things together. We've done an episode on this a couple of different times. Like, I feel like that has helped us stay very connected in ways that we might not otherwise.
Yeah.
And
date your spouse.
Yeah.
Date your spouse. How many people don't work out? They start dating someone new and they do these grandiose things to try to attract this, just freaking date
and
your
do new
spouse
things. Like,
and
do things that you wouldn't normally do. Like, you might not climb a mountain on your own.
Right.
That you did that with me and you loved it and it was an experience. I might not have gone to see Soul Coughing on my own.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
Right.
But we did, and like we have these shared experiences that like breaks up the everyday, which is where we started all of this. Like, we get busy and we're doing all the things.
We're all busy. You're busy. Life's crazy. It's just, there's a lot going on. So there's always an excuse to not do this thing. Like, oh, we don't have time. This, we don't have time. You got to make time. You've got to make time.
Later's a liar.
It's important.
Yeah.
It's important because what happens, we come home, 2 hurricanes. So I mean,
we talked about this, like, those were 2 very large storms, extremely stressful. Life has been anything but normal since we flew home from Colorado. Literally immediately the next day, school was canceled, everything's shutting down. It's been nonstop with that. And had we not had those days in Colorado together to refill our cups, refill each other's cups, like be
huge
together.
deposit in the bank account.
Right. We might have handled all of the stress of these hurricanes we would have handled the stress of these hurricanes way, way differently.
Because that was a huge withdrawal from the emotional bank account.
Oh my God. Yeah. We're
So
still recovering. I mean, that's a whole different episode, but like literally it's a whole different episode. But it's so important. So if you take away anything from this other than a little bit of entertainment, which I know there's a variety of people that show up and listen to this show from week to week, hoping to get something out of it. And so if you take anything from this episode, it's not unlike many of the other episodes. Be open, be adventurous, date your spouse, stay connected, keep a good attitude, like do it now, live your life, and
you deserve it. Do things for you.
I hope you've enjoyed our little Colorado
story.
Teener story.
Now we're teeners, so it's Brad Teener, Cameo Teener, and Greg Teener. So if you want to be a teener, you just got to go to Colorado and do a teener.
Do a teener. You can look up the list.
We'll get T-shirts made.
Teener Club. I'm sure there already are. We're not the first ones to do this, but we are going to get a poster and hang it on our wall and commemorate this thing that we did, this adventure. Thank you for joining us on the Cameo Show. Do us a favor, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, send it off to a friend, send us a message and let us know. You can visit my website or our Instagrams at Cameo Elise Braun or cameoelisebraun.com. And then you can find Greg from there. He's at Greg M. Braun. New episodes every Wednesday. We hope you'll join us again. Until next time.
Peace.